All right, I woke up this morning a little while ago and I started looking through the comments and I saw that a lot of you were very concerned about the unemployment rate in this country. And this is something I've been talking about for years on this channel, and that's the unemployment rates are fake. And the reason we all know that is because the second comment I read underneath this one that triggered me to do this video was the unemployment rate is low because they're forcing people into any beep job that they can get. And that's very true. It's the only reason why I'm in my current job. And the reason why I had to tell Gen Z yesterday, yet again, that if I leave, he doesn't qualify for my position. He thinks that it's an automatic going from entry level to a management position. In his own head, he's already come to the determination that when I get fired, that somehow he's going to be able to become a manager. And I'm just like, your job is literally minimum wage. They would never let you manage a department as a person with entry level experience. And if you did, as an evil corporation, allow an entry level minimum wage worker to run a multi-million dollar business, well, when that fails miserably, you can only blame yourself for being cheap. Anyhow, let's get into our opening monologue. They keep telling us unemployment is low, like we're all just too lazy to work, but the truth is the system's rigged to hide the real numbers. If you've given up enough, if you've given up looking because no one's hiring, if you're stuck in part-time jobs that don't pay enough, or if you're barely surviving on gig work, you don't even count in their stats. The real unemployment rate is between 5% or closer to 25%. But keep manipulating the numbers so politicians look good and corporations can keep wages low. This isn't a personal failure. It's a design system to keep you struggling while they pretend everything's fine. We all know how men feel about work these days. Why work if you can't afford to get a girl, a house, and a nice car? If working full time gets you living with your parents and struggling financially with no car, no relationships, why would you do that to yourself? A lot of people say, well, I'm going to be poor if I work, and if I don't work, I'm just going to be less or more poor. And you're just like, okay, so less poor working, but still poor. There is no real benefit to working. In fact, I keep saying this, but most people can't afford to work. In fact, yesterday, while I was sitting at my desk, I was talking to a person online, and she was telling me that I needed to look for apartments in the less desirable parts of the city because I was showing her. She lives in Rhode Island right now. I was shocked to see this, but the new stat for what do you call it? The average cost of rent in Arizona, in Tempe, where I live, is now $2,300 per month. That's the average. And that's up from $1,700 a month that I saw last year. $2,300 is the average. And the cheapest place that she could find, and this is her, and bless her heart, I mean, she's the sweetest person I've ever met in my entire life. She redid my resume. She really cares deeply, and I've never met her before. But the cheapest place she could find was $1,500 a month, and it was in less than desirable parts of the city. In fact, it was in some of the worst parts of the city. And these places weren't even available within the next 3 months. I think the closest one that she sent me was available in June. I have to move in 11 days. But she thought it was crazy for me to move into a place that costs $2,000 a month. Unfortunately, the only other thing that you can do is rent a room in somebody's house, and it's going to be full of people that are extremely poor with no credit. And there's a reason why no one will rent to these people is because they're a financial liability. because they're poor. And I was showing her the vehicles in the parking lot outside of my apartment a couple days ago, and she's like, man, that area looks really, really run down. And I'm like, look at these cars. You can tell the people that live in the neighborhood by looking at their cars. And when there's always someone doing car repair somewhere in this apartment complex's parking lot, like yesterday, I saw a guy spray painting his car as I was driving home from lunch because I don't know why I had to come home, but I did. And I'm passing him, looking at him, spray painting the side of his car, and then I look over and there's a police officer in the parking spot about 20 feet down from him, just hanging out in the parking lot because there was a guy who was just walking through the apartment complex while firing his weapon randomly. And I was just like, oh God, why do I have to live here? Anyhow, let's get into our 4 talking points before I go off on a tangent in that particular direction. Talking point number 1. The government claims unemployment is only 3 to 5%, but the number is rigged to look smaller than reality. It excludes discouraged workers, those who gave up looking, part-timers who want full-time jobs, and gig workers barely surviving. That's the people that really gets me, is the part-timers who want full-time jobs, but corporations aren't interested in full-time jobs because they require them to pay them benefits. So they would rather have 50 part-time workers that are less expensive than having 25 full-time workers that require more of an investment. Also, hiring people into senior level positions on entry level wages, which is something that I've had to explain to Gen Z on numerous times because he believes that he should be making $50 or excuse me, $50,000 a year with zero experience, no real skills, no actual education. And for some reason, you have a lot of people who believe this, that even though the economy is really bad, that they won't take a job that pays any less than what they think they're worth. Let me assure you, Gen Z, no one's going to pay you that kind of money. You're going to make that kind of money by working 3 jobs, 3 separate jobs, but not one job. Because corporations, for $50,000, they want someone with 5 to 10 years of experience, a whole lot of education, and even more of a buttload of desperation. That's who they're looking for in the $50,000 bracket. And $50,000 isn't enough to live off anymore. When you're spending $2,300 a month on housing, that's a very, very large chunk. I think I calculated it out at about $16 an hour just to pay your rent here in Arizona. $16 an hour is required for you to make every single day in order to just cover rent. That's a lot of your income. And I'm going to say it again. Most people cannot afford to work. And corporations hate hearing that because that means that they're to blame. Anytime a corporation has to go look in the mirror at itself and realize, oh my God, we don't pay people enough to live, but we're also greedy pieces of crap and we don't care if people can't afford to live. So the real unemployment rate, if counted properly, is closer to 25%. A hidden economic crisis. How many crises do we have to have in this country before this country looks around and realizes this country's not great anymore? And it hasn't been great in decades. Look at this place. Look at this entire country. This channel is becoming more popular every single day because I talk about the hard truth. This country is falling apart. It's a piece of crap. The mental health crisis, which is directly tied to the unemployment crisis, because you know what causes a mental crisis? Being financially unstable. Going to a job in which you have zero, and I'm talking zero job security. It messes with you. It screws up your brain. It causes depression, anxiety, panic attacks, you name it. The employment crisis in this country isn't going to get any better. If we haven't been in a recession, we're moving towards a depression recession. Why? There's no hope. No one's coming to save the proletariat. I keep looking on the horizon for sweet Jesus to come back to save the poor people, but he's not. And even if he was, there'd probably be some evil corporation that would take him out the second he stepped out and said, I'm here to save the proles. They're like, no, they don't need saving. They need more exploitation, is what they need. They need to work harder for less and stop complaining. Because that's one thing that I do a lot of at my job is complain about the low wages, the work, and the stress. At some point yesterday, my stress level started to hit 150% as I was trying to figure out how I'm supposed to work on infrastructure, purchasing, and still handle technical support in a department that's too small. The senior manager has already proven to be not adequate. I think he's just waiting to get fired again. I really, every interaction that I have with the senior manager is a man that's broken beyond belief. And he knows he can't do the job. He was never supposed to do the job this long. He was a band-aid on a job posting that wanted to pay too little for that high of responsibility. He can't do the job. It comes down to it. And he's just going to hold on. Just like every other senior manager has held on until they have to be removed. And that's just the way it is. Talking point number 2. Politicians use fake stats to make the economy seem strong when millions struggle. Business love high unemployment because it keeps wages low and workers desperate. The real numbers were, if the real numbers were exposed, people would demand better pay, benefits, job protections, and they don't want that. Corporations don't want better pay. They don't want benefits, and they sure as hell don't want job protections. Again, exactly how it ties back into America's mental health crisis. These corporations have created a mental health crisis by offering unlivable wages and forcing people into 3 or more jobs. You're never allowed to rest. Just like me. I woke up, I ate something, and I'm working. This is work. This makes money. And as soon as I'm done recording this, guess what? I got to get in the Promobile and head to my other job. Work 8, 9 hours today, depending on whether or not I have time to eat something. Then I rush back home in the Promobile, get some Pro beer, and I'll be working it as soon as I get home at 5 o'clock. From 5 to 7, I'm going to be working again because it never stops. As I've said, I have to work at least 3 extra hours on top of my regular job every single day. No weekends, no nights, no nothing. You sleep, wake up, work, sleep, work until they put you in the pine box. You're never allowed to stop because the second you stop, that's when you have to start selling your things. You have to start pawning your items to generate more revenue because life is just that much more expensive. It's impossible unless you're wealthy to stop working at any point and try to enjoy some part of your life. Talking point number 3. Applying to dozens or hundreds of jobs, never hearing back. Many jobs don't offer benefits or living wages, forcing people into multiple part-time gig jobs in order to survive. Now, this applying to dozens or hundreds of jobs, it's very true. I've heard it from you guys in the comment section. I know many people in real life now that have been unemployed for over a year. People who are told that they're unqualified for entry-level jobs. In fact, Gen Z was complaining yesterday that he tried to apply for a job at a call center and they said no. And you know why? Because he's not really good at anything. That's the problem with Gen Z, is that at work no one likes him. None of the business people, none of the management people, none of the other people I work with directly. He's a person that, in every sense, will stay a fast food worker for the rest of his life. Because that's the only thing he's qualified to do. Anything beyond that is going to be nearly impossible because of all the problems that Gen Z has. No soft skills, no communication skills, no phone skills, and a strong desire to make a lot of money. And that in itself, if a person walks into a job interview and the job is minimum wage and they try to negotiate in the job interview for more money, you're not going to get that job. In fact, I remember I was with someone a couple of years ago. We were out paddleboarding, and she had just gotten hired at a call center for minimum wage. And she just looked at me and she said, Millennial Stim, do you think I should have negotiated for a little bit more? And I just looked at its minimum wage. They're already paying you as little as the government allows. They're not going to give you a raise. And for as long as she stayed, they did not. When I worked at Walmart, it was understood. You don't ask for raises. As any general manager will tell any worker that they hire, this job is minimum wage. We don't give raises. We fire people and hire people for the minimum wage. Final talking point this morning. What needs to change? Stop pretending the economy's fine and acknowledge the real job crisis. This pretending that everything is okay, it really bothers me. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, you have to pretend that everything's okay. In fact, I was talking to my worker yesterday, and I asked him, it's like, how are you okay? Like, look at your life. You can't afford to live, yet every day you convince yourself that you're okay. And he's like, I have to do that or else I would get really depressed. Is that what all of America is doing, is convincing themselves that they're okay so they don't have to deal with the weight of an economy that's crushing them? Because I can't do that. I wake up every morning and I want to make a new video talking about how we're not okay. America's not okay. And America hasn't been okay in a very, very long time. And I'm going to keep saying that because you can't keep telling people that everything's fine when the reality is you're not. You can't set yourself on fire to keep the economy warm. That's not how it works. You can't sacrifice your life pretending that you're going to somehow wake up and things are going to be better. The economy is absolute garbage. The dog food that they pass off as worth anything is disgusting. No matter what you eat these days, it tastes like dog food. And I envy dog food at this point. Yesterday, I went and I bought a pita in the morning from Quick Trip. Oh my God. I had to force myself to eat that thing because it was like $8. And I was just like, this tastes really, really bad. And because I couldn't bring myself to throw it away, I ate it. It was the worst mistake I could have made yesterday. I destroyed the bathroom. I walked out, I walked over to the receptionist and I'm like, oh my God, I feel bad for the cleaning people. And she's like, did you really wreck it? And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what's in this food, but it's definitely not human food. And that's every aspect of our lives, our relationships with other people, our toxic, abusive relationship with whatever crap job you can get. It all sucks. And yet you're supposed to put on your uniform every morning and smile and pretend that it tastes good. And I'll tell you what, this world tastes like the dirtiest, nasty rear end that I've ever tasted in my life.